Hello. So we're going to be on page 29 of the Unit 2 packet. I'm just going to show you something first, and we'll get into what we're going to do today. So on page 29, you'll see, it's kind of hard to see though, the Unit 2 review sheet. Okay, so this is going to be due next Monday. And this is going to help us prepare for the Unit 2 test. So I want to kind of walk you through some of the questions, kind of show you which ones you can do at this point, and then also talk about the ones that you can't do yet, but you still need to do by Monday. So page 29, we have a couple questions here. Number one is a simplifying a ratio. So writing the ratio of pens to brushes. So that tells you the order right there. So the ratio of pens to brushes, and then simplify it. Okay. So you're going to write it as a fraction. You're going to divide it until you can't divide anymore. And it will be one of these four answers. Now, the one below it is kind of like one that was on a tiny quiz recently, where we have a ratio of votes for Hatim to the total. So Hatim's going to go on top, total on the bottom. Now, to find the total, you're going to add all three of them up and make sure you simplify the answer. So when you originally write the ratio, you're not going to see one of these choices, but you have to simplify it for number two. All right, let's go to page 30. Let's see the next couple questions here. So question 3, what is the rate written as a unit rate? The key word here is, the key phrase would be unit rate. So what we're going to do is write this as a ratio of miles to gallons, and then a unit rate is when you try to get to 1 on the bottom. So you're going to divide it so you can get from however many miles in 6 gallons to however many miles in 1 gallon. So that's a unit rate. And of course, if you want to look back at your packet, please feel free to do so to find the pages we did unit rate. That might be helpful when answering a question you're not sure about. Number 4 is also unit rate. Okay, so this is $120 for 15 books. You're going to write it as a rate using a fraction, and then you're going to see what would the ratio or the rate look like if you found how much money per one book, because right now you have 15. It looks like the number 5 is also a unit rate question, even though it doesn't say unit rate in the question. It says it took Cedric 42 minutes to jog 12 laps. At this rate, how many minutes did he jog each lap? That each lap is a clue that you're looking for the unit rate, or how many minutes per lap. So again, you want to set that up as a ratio of minutes to laps, and then divide to get the number of minutes for 12. Now, I will say too that you may get a decimal for that. And if you have to divide, let's say 42 divided by 12, if you're not sure what that is, you can always do it off to the side, of course. All right, so that's page 30. Page 30, again, these questions are very similar. They're all unit rate, so they're all going to look kind of similar. Let's go to page 31. All right. Number 6. Julia can type 150 words in 5 minutes. At this rate, how many can she type in 1 minute? Again, even though it doesn't say unit rate, it's pretty much a unit rate. Again, you're going to set it up as a ratio, and you're going to simplify it. You're going to find the unit rate by dividing to get to 1 minute on the bottom. Number 7 and 8 are both ratio table questions. What's nice is that both of them are already set up for you. It looks like number 7 is a one step. Make sure that you show your arrows on how you get to your answer, and indicate whether you're dividing or multiplying above or below the arrow. Number 8 looks like it's a ratio table question, but there is an empty space in the middle. And when I look at this, I can tell right away I can't really easily get from 4 to 5, so this might be a 2-step ratio table. Now you can see it's kind of there in 2 different places, this ratio table. So you can do your work either in this ratio table or in this one, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do both. Just use the one ratio table to find the answer for that. Okay, so again, this might be a 2-step one, number 8. Okie dokie. Let's take a look at the next page. Number 9. It says Juan read 300 pages in 5 days. Which rate is equivalent? Now, my hint for this is to write 300 pages in 5 days as a ratio, and then find the unit rate, or how many pages in 1 day. Once you do that, it's going to be easier to find whether it's A, B, C, or D. So my suggestion, 300 pages in 5 days, write it as a unit rate, and then see if A, B, C, or D is also equivalent to that unit rate. This one's really tough. Well, not really tough, but it's the toughest one on the review sheet. It's number 10. It says Sam and Dave were selling water bottles to raise money for new football uniforms. Sam sold 5 water bottles for every 3 water bottles Dave sold. Together, they sold 160. How many water bottles did Sam sell? I'm going to write a note here, and it might be a good idea to write this too. We're going to do a problem today that's very similar to this one. So for number 10, I'm just going to write page 20. Okay. We're going to do one today on page 20 that's very similar to this problem, and it's going to be solved in a similar way. So that's going to be the hint for number 10, to look back at page 20, which we're going to do in a moment, to find that answer, to help you find that answer. Now, number 11, it says the ratio of the number of boys in 6th grade to the number of girls is 5 to 7. There are 245 girls. How many boys? So the key for this one is if you're not sure how to get from one number to the next, dividing can sometimes help. Like if you were trying to get from 5 to 245 or 7 to 245, if you're not sure what to multiply by, if you divide it, the number you get in the quotient is going to be the number you multiply by. We're actually going to do a question like this on page 21 today, where the number isn't necessarily easy to get to. So we'll get to that one later, but you might want to look back at page 21 if you're having trouble with 11. Now the last page, page 33, we can't do yet. Okay? You can do this one after Thursday. So on Thursday and Friday, we're going to work with measurement conversions. So we have not done this yet, but these 3 do need to be done by Monday. But these can be done anytime after we have math on Thursday. Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'll write that on the top, after Thursday. If you have any questions about the review packet, which again is due on Monday of next week, please let me know. But again, we'll get to this last page, page 33, on Thursday and Friday. Okay, so now we're going to go to the pages we're working on today, and that's going to be page 20. Page 20, here we go. So today we're going to focus on problem solving using ratios, and we're going to use perhaps a couple different strategies we have, which are ratio tables and using proportions. So this first one's a little unique. I'm actually going to cross out. See where it says bar model? We're not going to use the bar model. And equivalent rates, like that's same thing as proportions. So I'm just going to cross that off. So we're just going to kind of ignore those 2 phrases were ever written on this piece of paper on page 20. All right, so try this one with me here. It says Heritage Middle School has 150 students. 2 out of 3 students in Mrs. Mason's class prefer gel toothpaste. Use this ratio to predict how many students in the entire middle school prefer gel toothpaste. Now, the ratio that we start out with is 2 to 3. 2 out of 3 students in her class. So whenever we write a ratio, we want to make sure to label it. Okay, this is going to be 2 out of 3. Okay, 2 out of 3. Now, what does the 2 mean? It's kind of important to think about the labels because that will help us determine what to do with this number, 150. 2 out of 3 students in her class preferred gel toothpaste. Well, these are the gel people. 2 gels. Okay. 3 would be the total. Okay. So then we have to think, well, at Heritage Middle School, is 150, this number here, is that the gel people or is that the total number? It seems more like the total because we're trying to find how many total people prefer gel toothpaste. So that 150 is everyone in the school. So that to me seems like the total number of people. Now, hopefully this works out well, and it seems like it will. Because we can get from 3 to 15 easily by multiplying by 5. So I'm thinking if we multiply by 50, we can get to 150. Let's multiply by 50. Now, what I forgot here is I'm going to put my big circle because that's where my answer is going to go. Then we're going to multiply the top by 2 as well, by 50. And then 2 times 50 is 100. So how many people in the entire middle school prefer gel toothpaste? So we can say like about 100, because this is going to be used as a prediction. Looks like they only surveyed 3 people in Mrs. Mason's class. So about 100 people prefer gel. Okay. Now, if we're going to use a ratio table, and you can always use a ratio table for something like this, I'm just going to show you how to set that up in case you wanted to do a ratio table for the other ones. And you can set it up like this. Like you can just draw a horizontal line, and then we can draw some columns. And just like we did in the last example here, this is the same problem we're working on. The first column is for our label, gel, total. The second column is for our original ratio, which gel was 2 and total was 3. And then we knew we can get from 3 to 150 in one step. So that's why we can just put the 150 in the next column. You can see this it kind of looks very similar to using proportions, but it's just a little bit of a different setup. Some people like to use ratio tables to help them organize themselves a little bit more. And the math's the same too. We can get from 3 to 150 by multiplying by 50. And we can multiply 2 by 50. So whether you use proportions, like fractions, or whether you use a ratio table, it's your own personal preference. I just wanted to show you both in case you wanted to pick one or the other to use in the future to solve a problem like this. Okay, we're actually going to go backwards before we go forwards. We're going to go backwards to page 7. Okay, and actually have to change a number on the review packet. I told you page 20 would help you with number 10, but it's actually page 7. So we'll change that in a second. This one is similar to the Sam and Dave one. On page, I think it's 32 or 31 on the review sheet. It says Katie wants to divide her 30 flowers into 2 groups so that the ratio is 2 to 3. So this one seems like it's really straightforward, but it's actually kind of tricky. So she wants to divide she's got 30 flowers. She wants to put them into 2 groups so that the ratio is 2 to 3. So I'm going to think of 2 to 3 as like the 2 groups. We'll call them group A maybe and group B. Okay. And the ratio is 2 to 3. Now, here's where this one gets a little tricky. So this 30 flowers wouldn't go for group A or group B. This is actually the total. And the total, it's not like 2 to 3 where 2 is one part and 3 is the total. These are just the number of flowers in each group. There's 2 in group A and 3 in group B. So this number 30 doesn't really fit into either group. So what we're going to do, and this is a little trick that I like to use, is if I have 2 parts, like group A is not all of the flowers, group B is not all of the flowers, and we have like a total here, I like to kind of put the total on the bottom not part of the ratio, but just a number that may help me get to the final answer. So right now, if the ratio is 2 to 3, what's the total? Well, if there's 2 flowers in group A and 3 in group B, the total is 5. So we want to go from a total of 5 to a total of 30. So I'm not going to focus on these numbers yet. I'm going to focus on this number here at the bottom. How can I get from 5 to 30? Well, if we multiply by 6, we can get from 5 to 30. So guess what? We're going to multiply the ratio by 6 as well, the top and the bottom. We'll see what happens. Because right now we only have 5 flowers. We want to get to 30 flowers in this ratio. So we're going to multiply by 6 on the top and on the bottom. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18. So when you look at this ratio, 12 and 18, if you add them together, you would get 30. So this would be the ratio of flowers that Katie would want. If she has 30 flowers and she wants the ratio to be 2 to 3, 12 to 18 would be the ratio of flowers in group A to flowers in group B. So again, I'm going to change that unit. I know in the review packet, there was a problem. I said to look back at page 20. It was actually page 7. We were going to start on page 20, but I forgot that page 7 was the problem that had that sort of problem there. So I'm going to go back and change that right now. I apologize. Let's go to page 32 real quick. There it is. So for number 10, instead of page 20, we'll cross it off. It's going to be page 7. So this is one where you're going to have a ratio, but you're also going to have a line at the bottom with the total, just like we did on page 7. This is the Katie problem, Katie flowers. Okay. All right. So we're going to do a couple more problems together. Then I'm going to have you try a couple on your own. So we go to page 21. Let's go to page 21 here. Now we're kind of bouncing all over the place here. Okay. Let's look at number 2. It says the ratio of the number of text messages Lucas sent to the number of text messages sent by his sister is 3 to 4. Lucas sent 18 text messages. How many text messages did his sister send? So we can either use a ratio table here or proportions. I personally like proportions, but if you want to draw a ratio table for this, all you got to do is draw a horizontal line. And then it'd be a good idea to like draw enough for if you needed to do 2 steps. So draw 4 columns here or just 3 vertical lines. This will be for your label and then your numbers. If you need a third column, that will have you set up for that. Okay, so let's look at the ratio here. Text messages sent by Lucas to the number of text messages sent by his sister. So it looks like Lucas, and these are texts, and sister. The ratio is 3 to 4. So it's important to have the label again because it says Lucas sent 18 texts. So that 18 would go where Lucas would be. Now, let's think about this for a second. Can we get from 3 to 18 in one step? You bet we can. So I'm going to draw the 18 right here. If we couldn't do it in one step, we might have to leave a space. This is where our answer is going to go. How can we get from 3 to 18? Well, we could multiply by 6. And for number 4, we'd also multiply by 6. And 4 times 6 is 24. And what's nice is that our answer is kind of already circled. And then we can say maybe the sister sent 24 texts. Now, if you did it on a ratio table, it's going to look very similar, just that the way you set it up might be a little bit different. Okay, Jeremy drove his motorcycle 120 miles in 3 hours. At this rate, how many miles can he drive in 5 hours? At what rate did he drive his motorcycle? Okay, so there's 2 questions there. We have a ratio here of 120 miles to 3 hours. So we're going to write that down as a ratio. We got miles and we have hours. So 120 miles to 3 hours. Now, again, if you wanted to do this as a ratio table, you can set yours up pretty much the same. It's just that yours, it's not going to look like a fraction. It's going to look more like a ratio table like that, which is fine. All right, so we want to get from 3 hours to 5. We cannot do that in one step. So if I know I can't do it in one step, what I do, didn't mean to snap that. What I'm going to do is just leave a blank ratio in between. I know I have to get to 5, so I'm going to put 5 here. That's going to be our answer. So I guess what could we get to that will help us get to 5? My first thought is 1. Like if we can get from 3 to 1, we can definitely get from 1 to 5. You could also multiply and get to 15 and then go down to 5. That's called scaling up then scaling down. But I think it might be easier to get to 1. So how are we going to get to 1 hour? Well, we divide by 3. Divide the bottom by 3. Divide the top by 3. What's 120 divided by 3? That's going to be 40. And then how can we get to 5? Well, we'd have to multiply by 5, but we can do it. We can do it. I know 4 times 5 is 20, so 40 times 5 would be 200. So we have 2 questions here. So in 5 hours, he can drive 200 miles. Okay. At what rate did he drive his motorcycle? He drove 40 miles per hour. So those were 2 different questions. One's really asking for the unit rate. That says at what rate did he drive his motorcycle? And one's asking, well, how many miles could he drive in 5 hours? Okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to pause it and try these 2 on the bottom. They're very similar to the ones we've done before. They're actually more similar to the Lucas text message one than the Jeremy motorcycle one. It looks like these are both each 1 step. So I want you to try these 2, and when you're done, I want you to unpause it, and then you'll see the answer, and I'll kind of talk about those for a moment. So pause the video, try those 2, and then we'll talk about the answer. Okay, so this is what I got here. The first one I had people that share a locker to the total. So 1 person shares a locker for a total of 12 people. And then you'd have to multiply by 38. Now, I knew to multiply by 38 because I did the work off to the side. I was like, how many times is 12? What can I multiply 12 by to get to 38? What can I multiply 12 by to get to 456? So I put 456 in the dividend end, divided by 12, and I got 38. That means I'd have to multiply by 38 to get from 12 to 456. So 1 times 38 would be 38. So that means 38 students share a locker at the school. And then this one's a little bit more straightforward. It was a 1-step one. So this was asking us how many liters of air can someone take in during 150 seconds. It would be 25. You can get from 30 to 150 by multiplying by 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So some good practice today with working with proportions, or if you used ratio tables, that's fine too. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.